Sometimes I feel a slight breeze in the mornings for a split second. So that means it's basically Halloween now. Here are your Halloween book recs, your horrifying books for Halloween. These are horror novels that have genuinely shaken me to my core, books that I've read across the years that have stuck with me for better or for worse. I think it's good to start with Bloodchild by Octavia Butler. This was the short story that really made me sort of fall in love with horror. I was always sort of neutral on horror, maybe leaning more towards a verse. I am quite the scaredy cat, but I took a horror writing course in college, and one of the things that we consumed and analyzed was Bloodchild. This was also my introduction to Octavia Butler and like the reason why I've completely fallen in love with her brain. May she rest in peace. There are layers to the horror working here, in that this is a colony of humans on an alien planet that have this agreement with the aliens that they're allowed to live there as long as they sort of give up their bodies as hosts for the alien babies. And the reproductive systems of the humans aren't really relevant because it's not really going in their reproductive, like it's not going into any particular set of organs, it just needs to go in the body, which means men and women can carry these alien babies and give birth. Our main character is sort of this young boy, but he is an older sibling. It's arranged where like the circumstances are that if our main character doesn't take on the responsibility skips down to his younger sibling. And while he's having to make this decision, he's torn between staying and being pregnant with this alien baby and possibly dying, or running away and putting all of that responsibility onto someone much younger than him who he loves very much. And while all this is happening, he's watching his, I believe, uncle go through the pregnancy and the birthing process. And I think really excellent commentary, especially at these times, regarding forced birth and responsibility and the need to escape, the need to have that option of escape. And then there's A Short Stay in Hell, which is a book that I tried to describe and emphasize the horror of, but people still wanted to like, not argue, but people were still insistent that like they would totally love these circumstances if it were them. A Short Stay in Hell is a short read. It's a novella about a devout Mormon man who dies and goes to hell because he finds out when he gets there, according to the like demon secretary that's there in this like office setup, that because he didn't believe in the one true religion, which was not even Christianity, it wasn't Mormonism, it wasn't anything. When he gets down to hell, it turns out that the one true religion is Zoroastrianism. And when our main character gets there, he's also there like amongst other people who have just recently died. Alongside him, there's a Christian man who turned to Christianity as a way to like cleanse his soul of his sins of being like a terrible abusive person. And then there's a woman who I think she was either like atheist or agnostic, who we don't really get much information on beyond her profession, her career. So our mini group of the recently deceased are in conversation with this secretary demon guy who's explaining their circumstances, that it doesn't matter really what they were doing in life. They were not following the one true religion. They're in hell. So they're really upset by this because they're like, oh my gosh, like I'm spending an eternity in hell because I didn't follow the one religion that I didn't even know existed, to be honest. And the demon guy at the desk is like, oh my God, no. This absolutely is hell, but we would never approach hell like how Christians do. This isn't eternal. That's so cruel. Hell in Zoroastrianism is temporary. There is a way to get out, but it is a challenge. And then everyone in this scene gets sent to their own personal hell. Or really, it's not their own personal hell. It seems that there are set ready-made hells of an undisclosed number. And based on who these people are, how they lived, what their interests were, they're sent to whichever hell would fit them best. So it's not a hell created for each person, because our main character, huge reader in life, gets sent to a never-ending eternal library. I don't remember where the like evil Christian guy goes, but I know that the other woman, there was like an offhanded comment that was like, oh, it seems you dedicated your life to studying bees. And she's like, yeah. And he's like, awesome. And then sends her somewhere we don't know, which is the added layer of horror in this book, that this is only one of many hells, and we have no idea what's going on elsewhere. We only know what's happening with our main Mormon guy, who has been sent to this library that is based off of the Library of Babel. And It has every single book that has ever existed, every book that does exist, that ever will, and could ever exist on any plane of existence. And so I get it, okay? As a lover of books, as a reader myself, this also sounds like a dream. Like, how could this possibly be hell? The way to get out of this particular hell is to find the one book in the library that tells the story of his life. And our main character meets so many people there. I mean, you can't really die there because you're already dead. So anytime you're in a position where like you would die, like you can experience acts of violence, you can get hurt, your body just sort of resets. There are these machines scattered all over where you can just put in a request for any food or drink you can think of, and it'll give it to you, and it's delicious and it's great. You have clean clothes, you have access to beds. It gives you the bare necessities to live comfortably. You just have to keep trekking through floors and floors of this never-ending library until you find the one book detailing your life. There are large hordes of people, and it doesn't really start out terrifying. It actually starts out kind of lighthearted and a little bit silly. And then our main character goes looking for his book. It'll have these books who are made up of like these impossible constructions, like an entire book made up of just a capital letter A. And he meets so many people, so many amazing and horrific, disgusting people down there. And it just never stops. And it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, this book never ends, and this is almost eternal. But technically, that demon secretary guy was right, and this is temporary. What is short when the context is eternity? It's very heavy, and it's so filled with dread. And I read this book in very close proximity with another book about being in hell, The Divine Farce. I read these books back to back. I read A Short Stay in Hell, and then a couple days later, The Divine Farce, which is another novella that also fills me with immense dread. And like, this is only technically about hell. I don't think it ever explicitly says that we're in hell, but let's be honest, this is hell. This is about a main character who wakes up in this like cylinder tube that's dark and has like sugar water dripping down the walls, and he's stuck in there with two other naked humans, and it's so cramped that no one can sit down, no one can rest. It's physically impossible to be comfortable. These three hate and love each other. There is no light, there's no bathroom. You literally just be standing up in this tube. You're given just enough nutrients from this like juice on the walls to be fed, but it's a miserable existence that is so descriptive. This is genuinely one of the most claustrophobic reads I've experienced in a very long, maybe in my entire life, to be honest. And then things develop further. Things happen in that cylinder, and it's gross, and it's weird, and it's I just wanted to take a shower after I read it. I physically felt like there was a layer of grime on me after reading it. It's very well done. It packs such a huge punch for being so short. And the same goes for Sour Candy. That's not about hell, but the circumstances might as well be. Sour Candy is a short read that I think about every time I see a small child throwing a tantrum at the grocery store. This is about a guy who sees a small child throwing a tantrum at a grocery store. He doesn't even like kids, but he's really about to not like kids at all from this point on. But he sees this child throwing a tantrum with the child's like mother at the grocery store, and something happens between him and this little duo. And from that point on, he becomes the child's father against his will. This child is like a deranged living parasite, and the circumstances are so bizarre and fantastical. You really can't logic your way out of this. And that kid is unsettling and scary, and I don't like him. And to build off of that, I love how these are all connected in some way. To build off of that with unsettling, disturbing children, Jawbone, which I just found out is being adapted into either a movie or a TV show, which will be very interesting to see because that's fucked up. Jawbone is a little bit difficult to follow. I have a love-hate relationship with like non-linear, fluid storytelling because like I love the experimental nature of it, but then sometimes I'm confused. I don't know where when we are. I don't know who's talking, but Jawbone is really interesting. It's about this like Catholic girls' school, but mainly focuses on this small group of friends, but also focuses even more on a very particular duo within the group of these girls that essentially form their own religion in secret and start pushing each other to be more and more twisted and rebellious and mean-spirited and boundary breaking with one another. And these girls have this attachment to one teacher in particular, this teacher who also has her own situation going on with her own toxic relationship with her mother. It's weird and it's intense and it's scary in that like there really isn't anything supernatural going on. It's scary in that these are just really messed up people doing really terrible things to each other. Like, it was one of those books where I'm sitting there, I so badly want it to end, but like not because it's a bad book, but because I'm experiencing suffering with the suffering. It's just messed up. And then to build off of that on the topic of just the root evil being terrible people being terrible to other people, but yes to supernatural, is the book Intercepts. Intercepts is so interesting because it is tragic, it is bloody and horrifying and grotesque. It also features so much vengeance, which I love, but I'm also so sad. Intercepts tells a story of this like secret government facility that's running these horrible, inhumane tests on human beings in secret to transform them into these weapons, or these, well, not really weapons, but tools to use for surveillance with the government and with government agencies. The goal is to create these sort of like telepathic, telekinetic beings for espionage reasons, right? There are so many failed experiments. They just keep grabbing people that they see as disposable and running these tests that are just pure torture. And one experiment in particular, one woman in particular, is very, very powerful as a result, and just goes after everybody, really. It's one of those stories where like the villain, right, the like major entity or force that's picking people off is gaining revenge for entirely valid reasons that I can't help but support. Like, yeah, it's humans versus this like really horrifying being, and you deserve that. And to build off of that, another book that falls into that exact category of like humans versus this angry, murderous being, but I'm on the being side, is The Only Good Indians. I really loved this book. This book details a terrible hunting incident that happened many years ago that has now resulted in a being getting revenge on all of the hunters involved. I think the pacing for this book is so weird, but I still, to this day, I don't know if I dislike it. I just know that I don't love it, but I do really enjoy the concept and the lore behind this creature that's seeking revenge, that's picking off all of these hunters in adulthood or in later in life, really. It's really ominous and it's really stressful, and these people are dying in so many different ways. It feels slightly Final Destination-esque, and everything surrounding this entity that's going after them is so deeply interesting and really, really ooky spooky, really, really heartbreaking. This book is really heartbreaking. And another really horrifying book that is not, actually not okay. I'm not gonna say that it's not as intense as the others. Well, okay. I don't think it's the most intense book on this list, but it is intense and weird and unsettling and disturbing. But for some reason, people don't really put this in the horror category. They just put it in like disturbing literary fiction, which is where some of my hesitation to like really categorize this amongst the others is coming from. But I don't know, I consider it to be a horror novel. Earthlings is honestly just like really depressing, due largely in part to how relatable our main character is outside of some of the things that she does later. This tells a story of a young woman. Well, we begin with her as a young girl. She's abused, she is mistreated both by her family but also by a teacher at her school. And through all of this, through all of the abuse and neglect from her family and the sexual abuse from this teacher, who, if I remember correctly, is also like pretty beloved, making her circumstances much more difficult, she copes by genuinely believing that she's not even a human being, that she is actually an alien sent from another planet, and she's waiting for her alien family, her alien community to rescue her from Earth. So she has this attachment to this toy that she believes is helping her communicate with her home planet, her mothership. And she moves through life harboring this secret that she truly believes that she comes from elsewhere, because this sort of is the only way to explain her feelings, or really how she justifies feeling so far removed from anyone around her emotionally. And so we're following her through her childhood. We see her in her adulthood, and things get deeply, deeply fucked up, weird, and gross with her cousin, and then things at one point just sort of spiral completely out of control. And then to build off of that with my final book rec on the topic of totally spiraling out of control, and also this general feeling of hopelessness within a story, is the book Pearl, which has me messed up so badly to this day. This book single-handedly has developed an irrational fear of pigs within me, deep, deep within me. Pearl tells the story of this evil pig named Pearl on this farm that has these weird powers and abilities, these like telekinetic abilities, and for no good reason at all just chooses to torture everyone. And that's what really makes it so horrific, right? Like, Pearl is a highly intelligent pig, but also does not have any reason at all to be doing this outside of Pearl wants to. And I hate that. I hate Pearl. Like, the character, the pig, not the book. I think the book is really good. It scared the shit out of me. And so you're just like rotating perspectives of all these people in this town that have the misfortune of crossing paths with Pearl, and are trying to make sense of it, and are trying to save each other, and are trying to stop Pearl. And like, oh my god, these other animals, like Pearl is in a league of their own where like all of these animals are regular animals, so even the animals don't understand what's happening with them or the monster that they're stuck with. Pearl is genuinely like this evil godlike being, and I'm so scared of Pearl. I get really freaked out by pigs now. Like, I'm serious. I'm dead serious about this. I don't I don't know how to cope with it. Like, I don't know how to cope with freaking pigs. And ultimately, I think these are the perfect ooky spooky haunting reads for Halloween if you're looking for something really, really scary and also really well done. Because I feel like anytime someone tries to talk about truly like earth-shattering, terrifying books, they get straight into splatterpunk. And like, no offense to the splatterpunk community, but I've just never read a good splatterpunk. Like, I've never read a splatterpunk novel that like wasn't all shock value and shitty writing. If you think you have recommendations I can change my mind about that, I'll happily have my mind changed. Like, I truly pride myself on being an eclectic reader who reads from every genre and subgenre, but I don't like splatterpunk. And yeah, what do you guys have on your fall TBR? I'm bad at TBRs, but maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll make one. I won't. I'm such a liar.